Hi, this is Fien. I'm the host of the One Size Happy podcast. Our goal is to make everybody happy with their bodies. So that's the goal, and we're going to talk about eating disorders, self-esteem, body image, all that kind of topics. So for the record, this is a positive space. So we're not going to give each other tips on how to lose weight. We want everybody happy, so it's about body positivity, and it's real and it's realness. So it's going to be the truth, but it's going to be with a positive intention, obviously. So this first episode, I will talk a little bit about myself, about my story, why I'm doing this, and then afterwards, in all the next episodes, we'll talk about specific topics, and I will be interviewing a lot of different kind of people, so they can share their stories, what they've experienced and what they've learned and what they're still working on. So that's what we're gonna do. So let's start. So, a little bit about myself. I'm Fien. I'm 32 years old right now. At the moment we're recording this, so I'm turning 33 this year. I live nearby Ghent. I'm not going to say the exact location unless you want to send me some present. Then we can always talk. But I thought about what could be a good way to introduce myself as well. And I thought about this sentence and I thought it was really cool. I would say I'm also happily married to my husband and to myself. It's clever, right? I'm just going to say why I'm telling that, because it used to be very different, and that's actually why I'm doing this podcast, because I don't know the exact age I was at the time, but I think it was about around when I was 16. I started to lose weight, and it became more and more weight that I've lost. And at some point, food, eating, not eating, it completely became an obsession. And I want to tell you a little bit about that period in my life, but I don't actually remember a lot of it, if I'm honest, because it felt like a period where it was kind of in a I don't know if that's correct English, but it felt like I lived in a haze, like it was like I was always sleeping, or I was not conscious in some kind of way. I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe you can relate to this. It felt like I was always sleeping, I was always alone, and that's just how I've experienced it. That's what I remember about it in general. In all other episodes to come, I'm going to talk about also today, I'm going to talk about eating disorders, but I also want to tackle some stereotypes and misconceptions about eating disorders, for example. So I'll begin with this one, because it's a question that I get asked a lot. Like, what was the reason that you've developed an eating disorder? I've thought about it so long. I'm a thinker. I'm really good at thinking. So I didn't came up with an answer myself. I just want to say this is really a misconception, I think. There are a lot of people who think that you need a big traumatic experience to develop some sort of eating disorder. And for me, that was totally not the case. I know a lot of other people that have the same feeling. Like, there is not really a big traumatic thing that was the cause of all it. So for some people it is. It could be, but it's not always the case. And I somehow wanted to find the answer to that question. I wanted to find some traumatic experience in the past, so I can So I thought that if I knew the answer, that I could start healing. So I've seen a therapist for that because I wanted to find out what could be the underlying cause of all this. But I never really got that that eureka or that aha moment where everything fell into place and it was like, oh yeah, this is the thing, and now I can start to heal. I didn't get that. I never got into that state, and I've actually made peace with the fact that there isn't really one big thing, one big experience that is the cause of all this, and that is just for me probably a lot of small things that happened that so that I developed an eating disorder like along the way, and that there's no one big thing, and it's okay. I've made peace with that fact. Second thing that I have a structure, trust me. So second misconception that I want to point out right now is also that you can't always tell by someone's look that a person is struggling with an eating disorder, right? You cannot look at a person and you can have your own opinion about it, but somebody can be big or very small, and it doesn't have anything to do with how healthy they are, physically or mentally. So I just wanted to point that out. You cannot tell by someone's look if they have an eating disorder or not. Obviously, sometimes you can. If a person is in a hospital and weighs 20 kilos, okay. But I just mean it's not really always the case, and most of the times it's not the case. The media has changed a bit, but the media tends to portray eating disorders mainly as anorexia, and mainly at girls who stopped eating and weigh extremely and have an extremely low weight. But if I look at myself, I think that was what I thought at the time. But if I look at photos, I know I'm skinny looking, I know. But I felt like I was kind of the person that if you looked at me and you didn't know me at all, and you looked at me, you would thought like, I'm not sure. Maybe she's just naturally skinny. I was like this kind of, it was not quite clear. And obviously people close to me who knew me knew that there was something going on. But if you did not know me, you maybe not guessed it. So I just want to say, also there are a lot of other eating disorders besides anorexia, like boulemia or binge eating, where people could have a very normal weight or look pretty normal, but behind closed doors would have really would have an eating disorder, and you just can't tell by the look of someone. Just wanted to clear that out as well. A lot of people ask me also this question, like, what made you change? Like, because now we're like plus 10 years later, and I can really say that I'm happy with myself right now. So what has happened, or what has changed me to develop, to recover from this eating disorder and to get better again? And that's another misconception, that people think that there is like this one big moment again that will change your thoughts, that will change your life, and that it's so easy once you get there, that it's easy to just recover from it. But for me, that was not the case. I think it's a long process, and I think along those 10 plus years there were several moments that shaped me, and I took another direction, and so eventually I got better. But it was like a couple of specific moments that redirected me, if you get my point. I'm just gonna explain what those moments were. Maybe you can relate to that as well. When I was anorectic, so you can maybe you can hear my accent, like it's from Ghent. But sorry for that. When I when I was eating nothing to very little during a long period of time, I got a lot of anxiety attacks. Those were moments where I thought I would die. Really, my heart was racing. I had stomach aches. It's like I'm such a hypochondriac. I mean, it has to do with control as well, I think. Like I would think about having a heart attack and I would start feeling my heart race, and my left arm was getting weird, and it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy actually. But there were actually moments back then where I thought I was going to die. My bowels, my stomach was really hurting at some points, and I didn't have my period for a long time. And there have been a couple of times where I went to the ER because I thought really that I was having a heart attack. And there was, a specific really bad experience where there was something that triggered me, like where I thought, oh my God, I just really don't want to die. And maybe my fear of dying is just bigger than my fear of getting fat, right? And so, that it was a really bad experience for me, where I thought that I was going to die for sure. And I think in retrospect, that was the first, the first time that I thought, okay, I have to change something because this is not going to work out for me. And so I think it was a day after. I don't know exactly the sequence of those moments, but there was a moment really short after that really bad experience that I was, I can remember it vividly, that moment. I was laying in bed next to my sister. It was evening. I think we were home alone or something. I think my parents were on holiday and we were home alone. And we were laying in bed and we were talking, and she was eating a slice of white bread with mayonnaise. It's kind of funny because I can remember so well what people eat during the day. I can remember extremely well what I've eaten during a whole day or what I've eaten last week, and I can do the same for other people as well, because that used to be much worse than now, because I was just always so focused on food. I could just remember those kind of things. So I remember it very vividly that she was eating a slice of white bread with mayonnaise, and I just thought of that moment where I thought I was going to die a couple of days or the day before. And so I thought, she's eating all these kind of really nice things, and she's thin, not like, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to do it differently. I'm gonna eat something, and so I started. I know exactly what I was eating back then. There were like these wafers, like square wafers with chocolate from the Aldi, and they tasted so good. And I ate one, and then I ate another, and then I know that night that I was eating a lot. I know, and a lot of bad stuff, right? A lot of cookies and a lot of sugar. And so the next day I stood on the scale, because the scale was my friend back then. I know I stepped on the scale every day, at least a couple of times a day. And so I was on the scale. I was thinking, oh my God, what have I done? I've eaten so many bad things. In my head, those were bad things. And I stepped on a scale, I looked at it, and I weighed exactly the same as the day before. And so I was thinking, oh my God, this is great. You know, I can eat all of that kind of stuff, and I'm not getting any bigger, so it's really good. And so I'm a person of extremes, so it just, yeah, I don't want to say all hell broke loose, but I just started eating more and more, and it actually developed into another eating disorder, like into binge eating combined with bulimia. And obviously, when you haven't eaten for so long and you start eating again, what do you think you're gonna eat? You're gonna eat all the stuff that you've craved for so long. I just remembered like an episode of Expedition Robinson. It's like this show where people are on an island and they just have to find their own food, and there's not a lot of food to eat, and so there's always this moment when they've been on the island for a couple of weeks, and they're actually starved, and then there's this day where they can eat whatever they want. There's like a table full of all kinds of foods, and if you look at that moment and you look at what they're eating at the or what they're doing, it's like they binge, right? They binge, and that was actually what what happened to me as well. And so I gained quite a bit of weight during a very short period of time. And the problem was actually that people would think that I was okay because I was gaining weight and I was eating cookies and bread and all that kind of stuff. And so everything, I was okay, I was cured, you know. But that's the problem with eating disorders like binge eating or bulimia, because I was able to hide it even more, that there was something wrong with me and that I was not feeling okay at all. But I could really hide it way better now because I was at a normal weight, and I was eating at times that other people were eating. So I was okay, but in fact I was not at all. It was actually worse for me, the combination like binge eating and then bulimia, because when I had these binge moments, I would just eat a lot of food in a very short period of time, mostly sugar kind of stuff. And then I would feel so sick afterwards because I ate so much food in such a short period of time. My heart would start racing from all the sugar I've eaten. I would practically almost throw up because of all the food that was inside me, and so then I would be sick like half a day, and then I would afterwards I would fast for days because I wanted to compensate in some sort of way so that it can balance out a bit like crazy, but that's just how it went. And so that wasn't really visible for people, and that makes it a worse eating disorder, I think. And so that actually went on for quite a while, for a couple of years, and I yo-yoed a lot. I gained weight, and then I lost some weight, but I locked myself up for days. It was kind of it's like, I can tell you honestly that an eating disorder is a pretty, for me it was a pretty, it was a pretty lonely time. It's a lonely mental disease, I think. I just locked myself up for days, and and I just want to tell you also, during all this period of time, especially during the period where I binged and had bulimia at the same time, like I had a job, I had a boyfriend, I was like functioning like normal people would. So I was extremely good at lying to people and extremely good at hiding things for people. And it actually got worse when the relationship at that time didn't work out, and I bought myself my own place, and then I lived by myself, and it was like heaven for my eating disorder because I could do whatever I want. I could eat whatever I wanted. I could not eat for days if I wanted it to. So it was actually, my eating disorder inside was like, yay, that's okay, it's okay, you can do whatever you want. But actually, if I look back on it, it was actually the worst possible thing that could happen for me at that time. But okay, it was like that. And yeah, I did some crazy things when I lived alone. So let me just tell you that. It's maybe for another episode. So to look back on the story, there was this one moment in time where I freaked out extremely because of thinking I was dying, I was having a heart attack. That changed me into another state of not eating at all, into like eating a lot and then compensating. It like evolved in other kinds of eating disorders. And then there was this other moment that I really remember well. There was a weekend where there was going to be a family gathering with the whole family from my grandma, and I was planning on going. It was on a Saturday, but like Friday evening, I had a really bad binge moment. I ate so many foods. I was gonna tell you what I ate, but I'm not gonna, because it doesn't really matter. So I binged a lot and that Friday night, and then I didn't want to go out for the whole weekend because I had to compensate. So I just told my family that I wasn't going, that I was feeling sick and so on. So I wasn't going, and I was alone the whole weekend because I had to compensate. And it just got to me. I was like, oh my God, if I'm going to do this every time, I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. And then I thought, okay, I just have to find a solution for this problem. So I thought, let me just go to the gym, work out, so I can eat a bit more. Like, it's a totally crazy thing. If I look back at it, it's not a really good solution at all, but okay. And so I had this friend, Annelies, and she had a gym membership, and so I said, okay, I'm going to join you when you're going to the gym, and I'm just gonna look around a bit and see if it's something for me. So we went together, and I thought, okay, I could see myself do this. So I signed up, and what I didn't know back then, at that moment, was that my future husband it was actually the same day that I went to the gym and I got my gym membership. It was actually the same day that he started working there in the gym. I didn't see him at that day, but then afterwards he got my attention, and I've noticed him around, and I find him very attractive. And so, yeah, as I told you, I'm an extreme person. I went to the gym, and I went all in. So I went every day, before work, after work, but like every day. I mean, also on Saturday and Sunday. And then I would be on a treadmill for like 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and I would track. You could see on the screen of the treadmill how many calories you've burned. So I would look at the calories, and then I would have an idea of how much food I could eat that day. Crazy, I know, but that was how it went. And then yeah, time goes by a bit, and then I started dating with my future husband, and then something happened. On our third date, he came over to my place, and I had on my fridge, I had this vision board, like pictures of all things that I wanted to achieve in my life, and there was also one sticky note on it with a number on it. And that number was actually my ideal weight. I'm not going to tell you what that number is because it's not important. But that was my ideal weight, and I could not go above it, but I could not go below it. So I thought I'm doing pretty good because I'm saying to myself, you cannot go below it. So I thought, yeah, I'm all good. So my husband to be came in, and he looked a bit around, and then he saw my fridge, and obviously he asks me, what is this number on this sticky note? What does it mean? And I thought, like, oh my God, what am I gonna say? And I was immediately thinking about all kinds of lies I could tell that would make sense, but there was not one thing I could tell him that would sound logical. So yeah, so I thought, okay, I will just gonna tell him the truth. So that was our third date, and I was talking about my my eating disorders, and I thought, like, okay, this is probably over. He's gonna think I'm nuts. He's probably gonna stop texting me or dating me because I have this weird mental thing going on. But I was really surprised that he didn't react negative, or he didn't thought I was weird. And actually he wasn't shocked. He actually started talking about his own relationship to food, to his body, about his eating disorders. And so I was really surprised, because if you would look at him, and that's like, looks are deceiving, as I told you. There was this trained guy, he works in a gym, he'd been in the military, he looked pretty confident. So yeah, it surprised me, and it just shows again that looks can be really deceiving, and that you would really be surprised if you knew how many people around you and close to you have an eating disorder or had one. So just saying. And so to finish the story, like, my future husband was actually the first person I could really talk to and open up to about my eating disorders, about my weird eating habits, about my weird relationship to my body, my self-esteem, and so on. Because he truly understood what I was going through, what I was thinking. And he actually, I don't want to put it in, yeah, I want to put it in those words. I think he saved me. I do believe in destiny, and I do believe that he was there in that gym because he had to save me. Yeah. I saved myself, obviously, but I mean, he was the trigger that got me really started. And so, yeah, since then we're like really good. I know. He also showed me that he understood what I was going through. He wasn't judgmental or anything, because I was on a treadmill for 2 hours to burn some calories. But he told me that it would be better for my health if I would start focusing on being strong instead of being skinny, because that was what worked for him. And so I changed my thoughts, and I thought, okay, if I'm going to be strong, I'm going to look good as well. Like, my body will look better, and not just skinny, but it will look a bit more muscular. I will be looking better when I'm naked, probably. So I thought, okay, let's just do this. Let's start with the weights. But the problem was, I did not have any muscle whatsoever. Really, not any. Trust me, no muscle at all, because everything was gone, because I was eating badly or not at all. So my body had practically eaten up all my muscles, let me tell you that. So I had no muscle at all, and I had to train with weights. Like, in the beginning, I trained with weights of 0.5 kilo, but that was so embarrassing, because you cannot go lower than that, I think. It's really the lowest weight you can take in a gym. And so I was so embarrassed that I started to working out with weights and I trained only at 6 a.m. in the morning, because then there were not a lot of people around. And I also trained in a separate room for group trainings, but at 6 a.m. in the morning there are no group trainings, so I could train in that separate room all by myself and nobody would watch me. So yeah, so that's what I did. And actually I became more muscular and I became more confident in myself, and it actually changed me. If I look back at it, I think for me there were a couple of key moments that, like, difference that put me in another stage, in another level, in another. If you have a ladder, like in another, a different step on the ladder, and so there was not really one specific moment that changed my direction. There were like a couple of moments that defined me and that made sure that I recovered. I just realized that because of talking to someone who understands what I was going through, I thought, okay, so that was really the key thing that helped me out, and so maybe I should make this a positive experience, and maybe I should do the same for other people who are going through this right now. I just wanted to tell one thing. That's my story. There's a lot more to it, but maybe that will come in next episodes. Or if you have specific questions about it, you can always ask me, and I'll do a podcast about it. I just wanted to point out that this has been a journey. I have to admit, because people ask that a lot as well, is this something you can heal completely? Can you recover completely from it? And there are people also in ANBN who tell me that they are recovered completely, and I believe them. For me, it's something I'm doing really well right now. I think it's something that will be a journey that I will keep going on, and I think it's something that will always be in the back of my mind, because for me it has something to do with having control about at least something in your life, and which is food, and I just know my trigger points when there are things that happen in life which you cannot control. And then I tend to be an emotional eater as well, so I know these moments that could be triggering for me, and I know how to respond to it in a proper way, not like how I was doing it before. So is it completely over for the rest of my life? I don't think so. It's always going to be in the back of my mind, but I have better coping mechanisms than eating or not eating. So it's something that it's something that took more than 10 years, and I just want to show you that there's a way out. For me, it took over 10 years. It doesn't have to be that long, but it typically, if I look at other people, it typically is not something that you recover from in a very short period of time. How many people have told me, like, why don't you just start eating again? Like, if it was that simple, then there wouldn't be so many people who are struggling with this, because it's not as simple as that. Most of the time it doesn't have anything to do with food. There are other issues. It's a mental disease, so that's what I just wanted to point out. And it can take a long time. It doesn't have to be, but just don't beat yourself up if you know you have an issue but you're not recovering in the next couple of weeks. It's just completely normal. So that's what I just wanted to point out as well. I will link all the details below about myself, my social media channels, about ANBN if you're living in Belgium and you want to reach out to us. I hope you enjoyed my talk. I hope you got some things out of it. Hopefully it inspired you, maybe to seek help if you feel that if you recognize a lot of stuff, for example. I hope it inspires you to talk about it more. If you know someone who could benefit from this episode, then please share it. And if you want to share your story on the podcast, that's also a possibility. So just get in touch and tell me a bit about yourself, and maybe you're the next person on the episode. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're on YouTube right now, and let's meet next week.